tap, blah 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 blah. Blah 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 blah. Welcome to Magic Chat.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Magic Chatter. I'm your host Cal, and today I've got a deck tech for you. We've got Greasefang, Okiba boss. Greasefang Okiba boss is 1 a white and a black for a 4/3 rat pilot. At the beginning of combat on your turn, return target vehicle card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste. Return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. Now, I built this deck a while ago now. It has been a stalwart for me. It's really fun to play. It's basically a Reanimator deck, as the old standard deck for Greasefang was. But honestly, it's one of the most consistent commander decks I think I've got. And we're going to go through some of the cards here, and you're going to see what it's made of. So, let's begin. Starting with our lands, we run 15 plains, 13 swamps, 7 non-basic lands, which are Spymaster's Vault, Snowfield Steamhole, Demolition Field, Paducah Bog, Mishra's Foundry, which may look like a strange one on the surface, but for 2 mana you can have something that can crew a vehicle. That's really why it's here. Terramorph Expanse Evolving Wilds. Onto our instants, we have Path to Exile, Record's Bargain, which is a really good card in this deck, to be honest. You can get a lot of value out of it, sacrificing something that might be bounced into your hand from Greasefang, getting a bunch of life, drawing some cards, really useful card. Deadly Dispute, similar, sacrifice something before it comes back to your hand. Dark Ritual, because this deck does want to go quite fast. It's kind of an aggro combo deck, and what it does really well is speed games up. I think that's the one thing it does the best. Final Showdown is a recent addition, one that I opened on Chat Magic's Whatnot stream, actually. If you've not checked those guys out, you should. They do real-time EDH videos, really good, high quality. Check them out if you haven't. Ransack the Lab. Onto one of our first sorcery. Ransack the Lab is one of those cards, especially in this deck, that overperforms every time I play it. Look at the top 3 cards, put one of them into your hand, rest them in your graveyard for 2 mana, and often this will just set you up for a couple of turns. It's really good. Feed the Swarm, because we need removal, and especially enchantment removal. Not as bad because we're in white, so we do have other ways of doing it. Ingarrick's Wake is our board wipe. Brilliant Restoration can be a big swing late in a game. Return all artifact and enchantment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield for the low cost of 7 mana. Yes, that is high, but it's a very good card and it's a very pretty foil as well. Path of Peril is another option for board wipes. The cleave cost is what you're usually going to be casting, but the option to have 3 mana destroy all small things is actually really useful. Insatiable Avarice, another one that I opened on the Whatnot stream with Chad Magic. This card has overperformed when I've played it. It's the best card in your library, and if you've already got the best card in your library in your hand, it just draws you some cards. Onto enchantments, we've got Zombie Infestation. Now this card does so much work in this deck. You can discard vehicles to it to get things to crew your vehicles, first of all, but having that repeatable discard for no mana cost is so useful. Call the Bloodline, again, another way we can discard cards for tokens, which can crew things later on. Okiba Wrecking a Raid, See, now this card is very underrated, I feel. In this deck, it's a 1-mana enchantment, Saga. Chapters 1 and 2, each opponent loses a life and gains a life. Chapter 3, it flips, and it flips into the Nezumi Rogue Captain, which is a 2/2 rat rogue with menace. Vehicles you control have menace. Now, if you know me, you know I love a bit of menace in a game, and giving all your vehicles menace really makes them hard to block. Onto our creatures. So, a very recent addition is Barrowglyph from Modern Horizons 3. 2 and a black for a star, 1+ star with Death Touch and Lifelink. Power and toughness equal the number of card types in all graveyards. Toughness equal to a +1. Barrowglyph deals combat damage to a player. You may mill that many cards. When you do, you can put a creature card from among them into your hand. In this deck, I haven't actually been able to play with this yet, but I feel like this is going to be a really good include for this deck. It is a way to mill ourselves, but still get some value out of things we might mill otherwise. Aero Admiral gives all our vehicles flying for 4 mana, which again, like Menace, as soon as you get a keyword on all the vehicles, it's really, really powerful. Auric Lawmage is actually probably the most overperforming card in this deck. Being able to just search your library for a card and put it in your graveyard means, repeatedly as well, means that every turn you are getting the best vehicle you can out of your library. This is a kill on sight when it hits the battlefield. Tomb Robber is another way we can discard cards. It crews relatively well once you've got a couple of counters on it as well, and it has menace. King Makar Gold Curse is in here as a way to remove things, because often we will be using him to crew something. When he untaps, his inspired ability is going to exile a creature and make us a gold token. So that's just a really good value engine for us. Dread Presence is more of a utility card in this deck. Occasionally you'll be able to snipe a creature from across the battlefield, a small creature. Most often though, we'll play a swamp and draw a card. Fate the Broker is, again, another utility piece. We can sacrifice a creature to put 2 counters on target creature. That's not a mode I've ever used. We can remove a counter from a creature we control to create a treasure. That's never a mode I've used. Sacrifice an artifact to create Inkling. That's what we usually end up doing. And from then on, we can activate the other ones if we need to. We usually use Fane just to sacrifice something that will be bounced to our hand. Oswald Fiddlebender, another really interesting way to cash in on the cards that Greasefang brings back. It essentially works as a bathing pod for us for most of our deck. Not all of it, but most of the important parts we can just get straight off the battlefield with Oswald. Cathartic Commando is a way of destroying artifacts and enchantments, but it's also a 3/1 which crews very well. Painseer, similar to King Makar, is another inspired creature. Whenever it untaps, you reveal the top card of our library, put that card into our hand and lose life equal to its mana cost. That can be painful, as the name would suggest, but often it's just a good way of drawing cards. Murderous Rider crews pretty well, also doubles as a removal spell. Stitcher's Supplier is a creature that we can play on turn 1, get something in the bin, and really start going. You can always sacrifice Stitcher's Supplier as well, which is very useful to things like Fane. The Shield prevents all combat damage that we dealt to attack artifact creatures we control. Whenever one or more artifact creatures enter the battlefield under our control, we draw a card. Again, each turn, if you've got this in play and Greasefang and something in your graveyard, you can draw a card every single turn off the Shield. Loyal Warhound is a little bit of ramp for us, and again, it's a 3/1, it crews pretty well. Gutter Bones is a card that, again, it's 1 mana, 2/1, it crews quite well. It's a bit of recursion as well, because we are milling ourselves a little bit. Hunting Nightmare. This one is one that is, again, it's a 3 mana 4/5 with Menace. So it crews incredibly well for a low cost. And it lets us do a little bit of politicking. If there happens to be a particularly problematic player on the table, we can give another one of our opponents the Death Touch counter on a creature they control, and they can deal with some of our problems for us. Moving on to artifact creatures. Starting off with Armix Filigree Thrasher. This is another way we can discard cards and take some things out. Bit of removal. Useful card, 3 mana, 3/2, so it crews pretty well as well. Metalworks Colossus we can often just cast for free. That's pretty much the only reason it's in here. It's just a big scary beater that we can often just cast for nothing. Scare Tiller doesn't crew particularly well. It's a 4 mana 4/1, but when it becomes tapped we can put a land from our hand or our graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. Very useful. Cryptic Spider, whenever another non-token artifact creature or vehicle enters the battlefield under our control, draw a card. This card overperforms every time I play it. You can draw so many cards off Cryptic Spider. Charizard the Silent King. This is one from the Warhammer Precon, as is Cryptic Spider. Whenever he attacks, you mill 3 cards, put an artifact creature or vehicle from among them milled this way into your hand. Just a very good value card in this deck. You get so much use out of Charizard. Hot Shot mechanic, just excellent at crewing. It crews as a 4-power creature for 1 mana. Can't complain. Imhotep the Stormlord, another one of the Warhammer cards. Whenever one of our artifact cards leave our graveyard, we create 2 black Necron warriors. And at the beginning of combat on our turn, another artifact creature we control gains +2/+2 and menace. Now, Imhotep is really one of those cards that over time accrues value, and it accrues it really well. And finally, Illuminator Xerath, 2 and a black for a 3/3 Necron. Tap, sacrifice another creature, add an amount of black equal to the sacrifice creature's mana cost. Another way we can make the most of creatures that would be getting bounced back to our hand. Instead, we can sacrifice them, keep them in the graveyard so we can get them back with Greasefang next turn and still advance our board state by getting some mana. This one is a Sage foil and it's very pretty. Up next we have our non-creature artifact, which is mostly our ramp. We've got Thought Vessel, Arcane Signet, Talisman of Hierarchy, Sol Ring, Strionic Resonator, which is good at just doubling up that Greasefang trigger. Key to the City, helps us get things through for damage, also lets us discard cards, and Orzhov Signet. And finally, the main event, of course, the one that you all want to see, is our vehicle suite. So first up we have Demo Taxi. At the end of the battlefield we exile a creature card from a graveyard. We can tap 2 untapped creatures we control. Until end of turn, Demo Taxi becomes a copy of the exiled card, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. Demo Taxi is in here more as a graveyard hate piece than anything else, to be honest. Often in a game of Commander, there's something that needs to be dealt with, and this is one of the things that can deal with it. Consulate Dreadnought is a huge beater. 1 mana, 7/11 vehicle with crew 6. Crew 6 is a high cost, but our Commander does crew for 4, so we actually only need 1 creature out with power 2 to be able to get this online. Colossal Plow. Colossal Plow for me has been probably the biggest overperformer. The 3 mana and 3 life you get from it really do help you advance your game plan in a really impressive way. Thunderhawk Gunship. This is another one from the Warhammer Precons. This one, a 6 mana 6/6 vehicle with flying and crew 2. When it enters the battlefield, you make 2 2/2 white Astartes Warriors creature tokens with vigilance. Whenever it attacks, attacking creatures you control gain flying. This is a beater. If you can repeatedly get this in and out of your graveyard with Greasefang, you're going to end up with a lot of 2/2 Astartes warriors, and given everything flying means there's always going to be someone you can attack. There's always someone sat there with no flyer, and yeah, this is a real beater. Weatherlight is a bit of card advantage for us. When it deals combat damage, we can look at the top 5 cards of our library and reveal a historic card from among them, put them into our hand, put the rest in the bottom in a random order. This gives us really good selection. Obviously, you can see the stack of artifacts that we're playing. There are a lot of artifacts, and this deck is pretty much, I think 90% of the time you're hitting something with Weatherlight. Knight Paladin is another Warhammer card, 5 mana 6/6 with trample, rapid fire battle cannon. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 4 damage to each opponent, and it's got crew 1. Again, this is another one, enters the battlefield, does 4 damage to everyone. We recare it, bring it back, do it again. Reaver Titan is a 7 mana 10/10 with crew 4, protection from mana value 3 or less, and when it attacks, it deals 5 damage to each opponent. So again, this is another one that's just really, really useful. Reaver Titan really pulls its weight every game I've played that I've managed to get it out. The protection from mana value 3 or less, it's so good. It dodges most removal in more optimized pods, and it also dodges chump blocking, which I think is really important on a 10/10. The amount of damage this Titan can get through is truly insane. Thundersteel Colossus is a 7 mana 7/7 with trample and haste and crew 2. This is just a beater. It's expensive, but we're going to be reanimating it, so we don't mind. Unlicensed Haste, another bit of graveyard interaction. Exile a couple of cards from a single graveyard, gets big as the game goes on. Cultivates Caravan, doubles as ramp for us really. We're not usually going to be bouncing this out with Greasefang, but it helps with our artifact synergies. Parhelion 2, now this card really is a beating. Parhelion 2 is a 8 mana 5/5 with flying, first strike and vigilance, crew 4. When attacked, create 2 white angel creature tokens, 4/4s with flying and vigilance that are attacking. Now, Parhelion 2, if you land this, it essentially makes you 13 power when you cheat it out with Greasefang and attack with it, and that's really hard for people to get back from. Reckoner Bankbuster. This one, it helps us draw cards, it makes some treasures, it makes us 1/1 pilots. It's a decent little card. It's a card that's always been on the cusp of coming out, just because I don't feel like it does enough. Obviously it's 2 mana, so it's not great to recare it with Greasefang, but it is a very good card in its own right, maybe just not for this deck. I'm still on the fence about it. Let me know what you guys think. Should I change this out for something else? Mighty Servant of Lekko is a 6/6 for 3 mana, crew 4, trample, ward discard a card. When it becomes crew for the first time, if it was crewed by exactly two creatures, it gives whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw 2 cards. This is a good card because it gives us a lot of card draw. We can easily make that happen. The trigger for exactly 2 creatures being crewed. It's just a really useful card in this deck. Heart of Kieran. It's just a 2 mana 4/4. Basically, that's why we're playing it. It's a flyer, so we have a lot of ways to get in, and we don't actually play any planeswalkers, as you've seen, but it's still very useful. Imperial Recovery Unit helps us with a bit of recursion. Obviously, a lot of our key pieces are 1/2 mana. Bowmat Bazaar Barge draws a card when it enters. Good to recur with Greasefang. Demolition Stomper is a 6 mana 10/7 that can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Much like Reaver Titan, this one dodges the chump blockers, and I think that's what makes it so good. Ballista Charger, when it attacks, it deals 1 damage to a creature or player. Sometimes this can snipe a really problematic permanent. And finally, Peace Walker Colossus. Because in some games, you do have those games where you're flooded out, or all your creatures have been blown up, there's been a board wipe, and you're sat there with a bunch of vehicles on the battlefield and not to crew them with. Being able to just pay 2 mana to crew a vehicle sometimes can win you a game. And that is the Greasefang Okiba boss commander deck that I have built and piloted for a while now. It's a lot of fun to play. I really do recommend giving it a go. If it's in your wheelhouse to do so. I think the one takeaway that I've gotten from playing this deck is there always seems to be something to do. You never sat there just like, oh, I've got nothing to do here. There's always something going on when you're playing this deck. Anyway guys, thank you for watching. Greatly appreciated. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe and comment down below. If you want to see more of me, head over to Instagram and follow me at @the_chattering or on X @mv_chattering. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.